What a welcome in Houston. Welcoming home DeMeco Ryans, former Houston Texans, former captain, former star linebacker there. He is the fourth head coach in 4 years, but they feel overwhelmingly that they finally have their man.
For me to be the head coach of a team that drafted me, I never could have imagined that ever. Right? And my coaching career hasn't been long. I've been coaching for 6 years, and for it to turn around this quickly and to be in this position, it's a dream job because I'm here home in H-Town. That's a dream job. The type of players that we're looking for is players, right, who are looking to swarm. Right? We want players who have a special work ethic and a relentless mindset in everything that they do. Right? That's what you're going to see from Texans football, right? You're going to see fast, you're going to see physical, you're going to see toughness. But most of we want smart players who truly are dedicated to being the best that they want to be, and guys who are coachable and guys who want to go win. We know that our fans here are hungry, right, for a winner, right? And they deserve a winner. So those same messages that I've gotten to people telling me how proud they are of me, like, I want to, reflect that in our team, and I want to instill that in our guys of how we go out there and play, how we practice, how we prepare. Man, we're preparing to make the city of H-Town proud.
For more now, we welcome in Jim Trotter. And Jim, you know that DeMeco Ryans was a star rising through the coaching ranks. They rewarded him with a 6-year contract, trying to bring some stability to the organization. What did you make of the hire, Jim?
Yeah, I think that stability is much needed. Look, in talking to DeMeco during this process, Houston, as he said, was always number one. Why? Because he played there, was drafted there. Also, his wife is from there. But I think what's important about this is to understand what kind of man the Houston Texans are getting. And you saw that in the press conference when his very first statement was to thank his family for the sacrifices that they made to help him get to where he is. He had his mom in the audience, his wife and his kids, and he focused on them first and foremost before he ever even talked about the Texans or anyone else. The other thing about DeMeco here is, look, a lot of people say, why would he go to Houston knowing the dysfunction that has gone on there? I think he believes, number one, he has a 6-year contract, which should provide stability. Number two, if you exclude the ownership and the things that have gone on in Houston over the last few years, there's a lot there in terms of at least 11 draft picks, a lot of cap space, and a chance to go out and get a quarterback who can really help them. So all of those things were factors, as well as DeMeco being able to go home, Omar.
And Jim, you really nailed it, because we know when DeMeco Ryans was a player, he was one of those guys around the league, universally was respected. Like everyone, when you talk up DeMeco Ryans, the level of respect is there. The same as when he was coming to the coaching ranks, and that is what the Houston Texans need right now. You got a young, defensive-minded head coach who is a leader, right? And the reason why they need a leader is because there aren't a lot of pieces in place right now. I mean, they've got to go out. You talked about the draft capital, the free agency capital. This is almost a complete teardown and rebuild what he is going to be working with right now. So they're going to need a leader to guide them through some certain times. And so he's just that good of a man, as you said, Jim. We know him personally. We both talked to him throughout this process. But now, it's the ownership. It is the leadership. They've fired enough coaches, right? They've done everything else but looked at things from the top down. 6-year contract, great. Does that guarantee support? Does that guarantee proper decision-making from above him? Not necessarily. We have not seen that before. So, again, I'm glad he got the 6 years, but I just hope for his sake and this organization's sake that, they give him time to get this right, because, Jim, you mentioned a word right out of the gate, dysfunction that has happened down in Houston.
I think he'll have time, but to me, he strikes of that galvanizing personality that we may see like Brian Daboll had last year coming into this year, turning that New York Giants that seemed to have the cupboard bare there. They go to the playoffs. DeMeco Ryans, maybe setting the expectations high, but he certainly has delivered every step along the way. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I'll say this to you, Omar, when you mention something like that, go back and talk to the 49ers players that he coached.
Yep.
When you talk to Fred Warner, he was going through that difficult contract negotiation a couple of years ago, and it was playing on his mind and whatnot. Who was there to help him through it and to keep him calm and level? It was DeMeco. Talk to Dre Greenlaw, who went through the foster care system, and DeMeco talking to him about what it means to be a man and grow up and do things the right way and whatnot. these guys relate to him, and he will be a leader of men for that franchise.
No question about it. It'd be fun to see how his head coaching career can take off there in Houston. Jim, Steve, much more from you guys a little bit later in the show. Now for our insider report. New right now, coming into our NFL Network newsroom, we're welcomed by Ian Rapoport and Mike Garafolo. So there's a big, giant hole now in the San Francisco 49ers coaching ranks there. They're searching for a defensive coordinator. Ian, what more can you tell us about that search?
A very well-known name now set to interview for them for the vacant 49ers defensive coordinator job on Monday, and that is Steve Wilks, the former Carolina Panthers interim coach. Of course, he's been a defensive coordinator, several stops around the league, also as a former head coach for the Arizona Cardinals. He is going to interview on Monday, and I would consider Wilks to be a pretty prime candidate. Chris Harris from the Washington Commanders also recently interviewed there. I would expect them to take a look at Chris Kasarik, their really respected defensive line coach, as well. But, you know, for Wilks, it seems to me like this would be a prime location for him to land. And not only is he, you know, looking at being a head coach candidate again next year, 49ers are going to be good. He's got a lot of good players, and they just sent someone from their defensive coordinator job to become a head coach. This one makes a lot of sense for both sides here, Omar.
Loaded with talent. That's certainly a job to covet. Meanwhile, the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator job to work with Lamar Jackson seems like a job to covet. Mike, what's the latest on that search?
The latest is Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Georgia right now, has done a fine job the last couple of years here, is in the building with the Baltimore Ravens for a second interview today. And I believe all the first round of interviews were done via Zoom, so now these interviews are occurring in person. I also added later that Justin Alton, who was the Broncos offensive coordinator down the stretch this past year after Nathaniel Hackett was let go, called plays the last couple of games. He will get a second interview early next week. Ian, you reported Dave Canales, the Seahawks quarterbacks coach, who did such a fine job with Geno Smith this past year. He will get a second interview as well. And it's already been mentioned that Eric Bieniemy is a possible candidate. Now, he is in the Super Bowl right now preparing for things with the Chiefs, so possibility that he will get a second interview. Maybe the Ravens wind up waiting for that. We shall see what the case may be there. Bieniemy also a candidate with the Washington Commanders. And Monken, by the way, has already interviewed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So a lot of moving parts here, Omar. A lot of offensive coordinator positions that need to be filled around the league, the Ravens being foremost among them for many candidates.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts now. But the key one for Denver, Sean Payton, the head coach, he's been hired. How's it looking for his defensive coordinator, Ian?
Yeah, that is the key one, because the offensive coordinator calling the plays obviously going to be Sean Payton. They'll hire someone, but it's Payton's offense. Defense a little more of a question mark. Sources say they have requested to speak with Brian Flores, the assistant head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, also linebackers coach, and someone who obviously has been a really good head coach for Miami Dolphins and came up as a defensive coordinator. This would be a really good hire. Makes a lot of sense for the Denver Broncos. Really allow him to just run the defense, let Payton run the team and run the offense. So that is expected to happen at some point soon. They also put in a request for Sean Desai, one of the key defensive assistants, also coached the secondary for Seattle, was heavily involved in that scheme, did a really nice job. So two candidates there for the Denver Broncos. Of course, they also have Ejiro Evero still under contract, still talking to Sean Payton, so we'll see what ends up happening with him.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to watch that. It was interesting to watch yesterday. I know you guys spent the week in Senior Bowl. You're back home now. Tom Pelissero still at the Senior Bowl and had one of the great moments all time in Senior Bowl history. Let's take a look.
It's real easy. If your hand hits that pad, you are the baddest dude in the history of the NFL Network. What usually happens is I win. What's best for you is don't fight it. All right? Everybody's good at something, and this is what I do. Ready and go. Nice. Relax there, young man. I thought for sure you'd be a lot stronger. I'll take it from here. Listen, the rest of these people, they've been calling me Travis. You can call me Daddy, young man. Yes, sir. Thanks a lot to the NFL Network. He's actually a lot stronger than I thought. He could definitely beat you.
There it is, guys.
Oh my God.
And that's going to hurt tomorrow.
Oh
but I swear by Saturday, I'll be ready. I know Travis will be ready too, right?
Wow. And for some of you guys in the back, if you don't believe it, you want to feel it, get on up here. It's the real deal. Thanks a lot, guys. Let's go, Tyson.
Tom's ego certainly hurting. His arm maybe too. Fellas, you have the open floor there on Tom's performance against Travis Badgett, 28-time arm wrestling champion.
Well, first of all,
You can go first.
This was my idea. This was my idea.
Oh, the producer
me and Tom
here.
ran into the whole. Me and Tom ran into the whole Bajan family at dinner the other night, and I'm like, you know what you should do? You should destroy Tom. And he was like, that is a great idea. Tom was like, oh, wow, we really should do that. So put it on TV. Let Tom be absolutely humiliated by this excellent arm wrestler. Sounds like his son did quite well in Mobile, by the way, especially the second day. But most importantly here is the fact that Tom got humiliated.
Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, Ian? If you're bragging that it was your idea to come up with this great segment, I'm going to brag a little bit myself and mention that the other day at the Battle House Hotel in Mobile, Alabama, Tom Pelissero and I were both in the gym. One of us was lifting weights. The other one was on the elliptical. I think you can figure out which was which.
Tom Pelissero, big cardio guy. And to get his response, check out NFL Insiders on YouTube, the show with Mike and Ian as well, so Tom can defend himself, certainly, in that regard.
Are we doing that today?
I don't know. Next time you have
find out.
it, you got to
It may or
address
may
it.
not be.
It will be the elephant in the room if you
I
don't.
think so.
Ian, Mike,
We'll be
thank you
in
very
touch.
much. Much more from you.
How do you want to be remembered? Protect your scalp.